The series is up to a great start, with 2 strong episodes paving the way. Can the show hold that standard, or even elevate it further? What does episode 3 hold in store for us? Will our heroes find a helping voice in former adversary Helmut Zemo? Or will he become the main villain again? Hi there, it's Micha. To find out more, come in and join me. To let you know from the get-go, this week's episode may divide opinions. As you may recall, my friend Neal, who has deeper knowledge of Marvel Comics, is teaming up with me on this series of reviews. And for the first time there is a larger gap between our ratings. So, this should be interesting. As usual, we will also share our theories and some Easter eggs. On top of that, Neal is also providing the music that can be heard in the background of each of our videos for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Thanks, mate! So, let's check in with Chapter 3 of... This week's plot in a nutshell. As they need his help, Bucky breaks out Zemo, who guides them to the pirate island of Madripoor. His contact, a fence named Shelby, points them to scientist Wilfried Nagel, before she is killed. Blamed for her murder, everyone on the island is hunting the trio for a bounty. This is when Sharon, Agent 13, shows up and saves them. Living the life of a criminal now, she uses her connections to find Nagel, who confirms having created 20 doses of the super soldier serum, which Carly stole. He also tells them that Carly called him about helping a tuberculosis patient, whose name he provided, and that no further serum exists. On that note, Zemo killed Nagel to stop any future production of a serum. As Sharon is still wanted, they say goodbye for now. Meanwhile, Carly graduated from vigilante to terrorist when she deliberately burns down a GRC headquarters after robbing it, with all the staff constrained inside. After Sam's friend Torres located the TBC patient in Riga, the 3 fly there to follow Carly's trail, where Bucky notices someone following them. The Wakandan warrior Ayo, who is not happy about Zemo running free. Right off the gate, let me say that I could kick my own butt for missing one thing in last week's video. At the very end I asked, what do you think how Zemo will break out of prison? Right before I uploaded it I thought, well, maybe it is super easy, barely an inconvenience. Maybe they break him out themselves. But I thought that this was too much of a stretch to rework the video for it, and here we are. For Neal, this was the best episode so far, as it had a good pace and really pushed the story forward. I tend to agree on the pace and story propelling part, but I thought that this one was inferior to the previous 2 chapters, and this is why. After my first watch I might have agreed with Neal, maybe scored slightly lower than he did, as it bothered me that it was a bit unclear how Bucky managed to get Zemo out. He asked what he was reading, so Zemo opened his book, finding a keycard. Where did Bucky get the card, and how did he get the book to Zemo? They never elaborate on this, even though each other aspect of the prison break is laid out in quite some detail. And how did Zemo later get his hands on Bucky's notebook, with his list? Also never addressed. I mean, this all happened after Zemo used Bucky's activation phrase. One could theorize that maybe some things were deliberately kept from us, as Bucky is now somehow under Zemo's influence? Maybe through a secondary protocol, which might be explained later? If that is the case, then this inconsistency and maybe all others that I will list going forward will be resolved. However, as this may or may not be the case, from our current point of knowledge, I have to treat those as possible storytelling issues. On my second view, where I took notes for this video, I noticed that the inconsistencies spread out from there, that the plot progression looked very constructed and not much is really explained throughout this episode. Here is the blow by blow. Why does Bucky feel the need to break Zemo out? Even have it planned before he spoke to him? Maybe Zemo would have shared his knowledge while staying in prison, as they partially pursue the same goal? And from there, why was Zemo worth breaking out? Him being an expert on Hydra was irrelevant so far. The only thing he brought in was his private plane and one acquaintance in Madripoor. who by sheer coincidence not only knew about the super secret serum no one else has heard about, but also knows who made it. What Shelby apparently doesn't know, as does no one in the whole bar she owns, is that Bucky was healed and pardoned by the US president. Something even Zemo heard in prison. How can a group be so well informed on secrets and oblivious to well-known facts? This made the whole "didn't take much to have him fall back into form as the Winter Soldier" sequence with Bucky, cool as it may be, absolutely redundant. As for Shelby, her only role was to give them the name of Wilfried Nagel, the scientist who perfected the serum. After Shelby is killed, everyone is chasing them for a bounty of 1000 Bitcoin, which, small Easter egg, translates to a bit over 50 million euro or a bit under $60 million. And by the way, in the real world, Bitcoin indeed became the preferred currency within criminal circles, as it is untraceable. On the run, they are then saved by Sharon Carter and have time to catch up standing in the street, while 10 seconds ago everyone was after them. I mean, we have all watched John Wick's 3rd chapter and know that there wouldn't be a second to catch your breath with such a high reward on your head. Then, in her home, Sharon reveals that she has leaned into the life of a hustler since she was outlawed, becoming jaded and tough, which, small Easter egg, brings her much closer to the version of her in the comics. Trading in stolen art, she uses her connections to locate Nagel. Really? How? Now art collectors also know about the super secret serum and have no issues sharing this info? This looks like a case of, how does they find out? Because it's written in the screenplay. Don't ask any questions. Even the way they bring Sharon on board was weird. First she is the guardian angel, then she is pissed that she is still not pardoned, and yeah, I would be too. Did no one even think of her and put in a good word? It may be a convenient screenplay device to place her there right now, but really makes the Avengers and related associates look like a bunch of assholes. They should have had remembered her at the latest when Bucky was pardoned. So is it really believable they forget about her? Then they had to have a weird dance to make her accept Sam's promise to clear her name, ending in a deal, as she wouldn't want to accept nor trust charity. How would that be charity? Well, who knows. And why would she even be interested in returning? She could have moved to a place without extradition and just lived a normal life. No one forced her to be a criminal, yet she seems to have no issue with it. So, as she is now a rich dealer of stolen art, it may be something that will be hard for her to give up. It really seems to be out of character for her. So my theory here is that at least her life on Madripoor is all an undercover gig. Maybe she was already pardoned by someone advocating for her who didn't forget her, and she is now pulling Sam's legs? Or this is part of a deal to get her pardoned. If it turns out to be her real life and choice, I would be surprised and disappointed. Next up, while Sharon tries to get the info on Nagel, everyone is partying as if there is no bounty on their heads. Apparently, the divide between Hightown and the lower districts of the island is strong enough to keep people uninformed or untempted by a 50 million euro prize money. But wait, the next day at the container site, the screenplay makes up for it by having thug after thug showing up without an explanation on how they found out the trio was there. Then I guess because we needed the next clue, after saying that Carly stole all 20 vials of the serum, Wilfried Nagel offers the info that Carly called him about helping a tuberculosis patient. Which makes no sense. Why would she call him after stealing from him? With him obviously not interested in helping, but thank God, he even remembered the name of the patient. After Zemo killed Nagel, once he learned that no more serum exists aside from what Carly stole, which was also senseless as there were likely notes and other stuff in the lab to help recreate it, a bounty hunter just happens to guess correctly in which container the lab was located, and uses a rocket launcher to blow it up. With all the evidence, as long as Nagel wasn't using the internet or a cloud, which would be ridiculous. By the way, bold move by the guy with the launcher. I would think on a yard full of containers on an island full of pirates and gangsters, there might be some stuff he could accidentally destroy which might cost him his life. But also no, that would never happen. Ultimately, based on the name they got from Nagel, the team was able to make it to Riga, where the episode ended. Let's end my blow by blow here by saying, wow, That was a shitload of coincidences and happenstances. Again, maybe this is all cleverly planned and all things will be rectified and explained away in future episodes. But as of now, it just looks like a poorly written script. And I honestly can't imagine that all of these things can be fixed by adding a further layer of storytelling. The fact that the writer of this episode also wrote the upcoming chapter might indicate that there was an idea behind it, or that we should be very worried. Easter egg. The writer of this episode, Derek Kolstad, also wrote the screenplay for the aforementioned John Wick trilogy, which explains the similarity with the bounty sequence. I hope he is not a one-trick pony, writing the same action content over and over, so he will be able to redeem himself next week. He also wrote the screenplay for Bob Odenkirk's upcoming action vehicle Nobody, where he plays a calm family father with a history as a weapons expert who needs to save his family by becoming his former self. Reminds you of something? Well, we will soon find out how diverse his spectrum is. But off to nicer callouts now. What else have we learned this episode? Which previous theories were impacted and what happened to recurring topics? Well, I guess we were spot on with what happened during the blip. I apparently overthought the contents of a stolen vaccine containers, as it looks like they were just containing regular medicine, needed for the inhabitants of the displacement camps. So definitely not containers full of a super soldier serum. There are only 12 vials left, at most. And also no virus in there, no elaborate plan to reduce Earth's population in the future by making people sterile. They are just trying to survive each day. It is all about supplies. So far apparently Kali was valuing each life, which suddenly ended today with her killing of dozens of GRC staffers, who are also just trying to do the right thing. Now that the group's motives are clearer, suddenly their methods make no sense anymore? But I expect an explanation for the escalation will be provided. Interesting though that Kali's second in command, who also was shocked about her change, has a history on the island of Madripoor. I think it is sure to say that this will become important in future episodes. Maybe he is connected to Sharon? Still in contact? Maybe he reaches out after Kali turned violent? Easter egg. It may be important that the Principality of Madripoor is introduced into the MCU at this point. The fictional island located in Southeast Asia was first introduced in the comics in 1985, mostly associated with stories from the X-Men series. As they are supposed to make their way into the MCU soon, this location may become significant. According to illustrations, it's supposed to be located between Singapore and Sumatra. But back to Kali. What is her connection to Madripoor? Who is her informant? I guess the most obvious answer would be Sharon, as she might have gotten Nagel's whereabouts from Kali. Who knows his location? She robbed him, and might have fed him the info about the TBC patient to lure the team to Riga. Not sure though how Kali could jump to the conclusion that with Nagel dead, the power broker would beg her for the serum, when he previously applied force. I would fear more force coming my way, but what do I know? I guess at this point, Sharon is the biggest wildcard. She is bitter because no one cared for her to get a pardon, that while others were on the run, she still is. She seems to have lost her belief in heroes as well. So either she is now a mid-level criminal, an undercover agent, a flag smasher supporter, or maybe even the illustrious power broker herself, as everyone only seems to know him or her by reputation, though calling them the king. Mini Easter egg. We even see some graffiti in Lowtown that states, "The power broker is watching," making him more a myth than a man. That would be a twist if she turns out to be that big bad. She seems to have lived through the blip, so who knows what more than 5 years on Madripoor did to her. We also learned this week that Dr. Wilfried Nagel was first hired by Hydra to finish the experiments in Siberia after Zemo killed the 5 test subjects. After that, the CIA recruited him, where he received a blood sample likely sourced from Isaiah, which led to a refined, perfected version of the serum. And it is not just a boost, as I theorized, it really gives you permanent power. Due to the blip, his findings vanished with Nagel. Once he was back, the CIA had already cancelled the program, so the power broker bankrolled his research. I guess the CIA just let him take all the research with him, but at this point, why even bother to think about it? Sorry, I'm quiet now. We still don't know why he only created 20 vials. Was that all he could do with the material he had? Or is it too expensive? How could Kali steal it? Were some of them test objects originally, explaining Second in Command's backstory on Madripoor? And why did Nagel not take the serum himself? That would be the first thing I would do if I would have a working super strength serum. Easter egg. In the comics, Wilfried Nagel was introduced in the same story that introduced Isaiah Bradley. The comics version of Nagel worked on the Super Soldier project back in World War II. After Professor Abraham Erkson's death, Nagel was the one in charge of recreating the process. He subsequently killed hundreds of soldiers until finally succeeding by turning Isaiah Bradley into a super soldier. We also learned a lot about Zemo, who, like every proper Marvel villain, has an understandable motivation. He doesn't trust humanity to properly deal with superheroes. Heroes become idols, and idols inspire wars. Superheroes, to him, could that way turn into dictators, like Hitler, and nobody wants that, or at least nobody sane. We see him also interact with his personnel on a very familiar basis, implicating that he was, or partially is, a very good person who went down the rabbit hole due to grief and pain, choosing the wrong means to reach a, from his point of view, noble goal. And I like the point he makes when he asks the guys, "Did you even show up at the memorial for Sokovia?" I do wonder, however, why he never tries to run, why he even returns to bail out his temporary partners, even after his interest, killing Nagel, was fulfilled. And why do they think they still need Zemo to find Kali? The question with Zemo will remain this. Though he is a killer, does he have a code and keeps his word? Maybe he turns out to be the power broker. Will he help the guys, or is there another endgame we don't see yet? I do expect though that Sam mentioning Isaiah in front of Zemo will become problematic. Zemo Easter egg. This is the first time we see him in the MCU wearing his signature mask from the comics. In the comics he was badly burned during a fight with Captain America and subsequently used the mask to hide his mutilated face. In any case, this week Zemo was the one dipping into the recurring racial awareness topic by saying Marvin Gaye's Trouble Man is a masterpiece that perfectly captured the African American experience. A comment that Sam called out of line, but also spot on. Easter egg. Trouble Man is a soundtrack composed by Marvin Gaye for a film of the same title, which premiered 1972. While white critics bashed the movie, with one including it in his 1978 book of 50 Worst Movies of All Time, it was also included in 2009 in the list of 50 best blaxploitation movies of all time. Bucky's obsession with Steve's legacy also made a reappearance this week, as Bucky suggested for the first time to wield the shield himself, if Sam doesn't want it, and he wouldn't allow it to be destroyed, as Sam suggested. Not only, as you know, did Bucky become Captain America in the comics, but previous MCU movies planted the seed by regularly having Bucky use the shield. And an Easter egg for everyone wondering from where they know the Wakandan soldier appearing in the end. Ayo is the second in command to the Dora Milaje, the royal bodyguards we know from Black Panther and other visits in Wakanda. This likely suggests that we will learn more about Marvel's upcoming Black Panther sequel. I don't expect too much details though, as Marvel will likely honor Chadwick Boseman's legacy by introducing his successor properly in the new movie, and not in a TV show. So much for the details, now for the rating. I did enjoy the episode, but I didn't enjoy the apparently sloppy screenplay. I assume some of those perceived plot holes will be plugged in the next week, but wouldn't hold my breath. As is, I can only give a score of 6.5 out of 10 points. It was very entertaining, but left more than just a little room for improvement. Neal liked this one more than previous episodes, with this being the best episode so far, giving it 9 out of 10 points. After my first watch, I might have leaned the same way, but this means we have our first big difference in scoring the show. Between the two of us, this again means I mathematically have to round up to overall 8 out of 10 points this week. Solid. How did you like the new chapter? Did those inconsistencies bother you, or were they hidden well enough for you behind the action? Let us know in the comments. That's it. As always, if you enjoyed this video, like it and feel free to share it with your friends. And why not subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any future video. Make sure to also hit the notification bell to get a heads up whenever a new video is posted. So much for now, see you next time and thanks for watching!